On this episode, we talk about my favorite exercises, not just for you guys, but for me too. And we discuss how changing your body fat can affect your athletic performance. Super excited to get to come back to you guys for another episode. Just this past week, we released the Back Tuck Cookbook, which is our first back tuck specific program. And it is designed to take you and your back tuck to a whole new level. So if you have not checked out the Back Tuck Cookbook, it's on our website. And as a secret, and for some people, by the time they hear this, it's going to be a little too late. But for all of you guys that are with me now and those that hear the podcast tomorrow, we are doing a 50% off flash sale for the Back Tuck Cookbook. The code is TUCK50. So if you go to thecheerdoc.com/shop, click on the Back Tuck Cookbook and use the code TUCK50 at checkout, and that'll save you 50% on this brand new manual that we have just created and released to you guys that will take your back tuck to the next level. So enough about that. Tonight, I want to answer two questions that we had submitted, and they kind of go hand in hand. And I think that they're great topics to discuss. And I think that all of our athletes should be thinking about. Our first question was, will losing body fat, and this comes from a male athlete, will cutting body fat decrease athletic performance or ability? Which is a great question. When you look at strength athletes, typically, the bigger the person is, the stronger they typically are. And we see that in other sports like football, powerlifting, strongman competitions, and things like that. And so usually a bigger person is going to be able to generate more power as long as they're a bigger active person. Now, with regards to this athlete's question, being a male athlete, obviously we know that we want to be as fit as we can be, and our sport requires a lot more than just strength. We also have to rely on good cardiovascular training, good flexibility, and things of that nature. So indirectly, no, having less body fat will not decrease from performance, because all body fat is stored energy that your body needs to use later. So if you are inefficient at creating energy, then you're going to store a lot of this fat. If you're efficient at using the energy stores that you have, you will lose body fat, but your output will still be really high. So the only thing is a kind of the caveat to that, or the warning to that is, in order to lose body fat, we have to go into a calorie deficit, meaning that we have to eat less than we are burning. And when we do that, what happens is sometimes our strength and performance can suffer if that deficit is too much. So in that instance, yes, burning a lot of fat off or losing a lot of weight, I should say more specifically, just losing a lot of weight doesn't necessarily translate to body fat being dropped, but that could create some change in a negative way towards your performance. So what I would say for this athlete and for all of our athletes is, number one, no, directly losing body fat will not directly affect your athletic performance in a negative way. But you have to go about it in the right ways. We have to make sure that we're eating enough to fuel our bodies. We have to make sure that we are not starving ourselves. We have to make sure we're staying properly hydrated, and we have to make sure that we're strength training while we're trying to cut weight. That's another issue that I've seen with a lot of athletes, is that they'll start to try to lose weight. They stop focusing on strength. They focus more on cardio or things of that nature, and they end up becoming weaker and end up injuring themselves because they're not conditioned for that high intensity activity. So I would say, to answer the question, no, losing body fat will not decrease your athletic performance. If you do it the right way, it'll actually help to increase your athletic performance. And we have to make sure that we're going about that the right way. We're getting the right nutrients. We're not crash dieting, and we're not just focusing on everything that the scale says. Hey guys, and thank you so much for your support for the Hit Zero podcast. I really couldn't have done it without Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make your own podcast. They give you everything you need in one place, and it's free, and you can use it from your phone or your computer. Their creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And they even distribute it for you so it can be heard everywhere, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Also, you can even make money from your podcast, and you don't have to have a minimum amount of listeners either. So, if you're ready to start your own podcast, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. Look forward to hearing your first episode. So our second question this week comes from another athlete that asked a question that was geared more towards me, but I want to answer it for you guys, okay? The question to me was, what is my favorite workout or my favorite exercise? And when I started to think about it, I've had this discussion with patients before, that if I could only do one thing, what would I do kind of conversation. And in that aspect, I answer it more of life, right? Like, so if I get to pick one exercise to keep me prepared to be fit for life, not just specifically cheer, specifically in a sport, what would it be? And in that regard, there's a couple of things that it's hard for me to say I would pick this one over that one. As far as the most effective single exercise for all people, my opinion is the kettlebell swing or a front squat. And the reason is that both of those movements incorporate almost the entire body being used at the same time. So it's a highly coordinated move, both of them are, and it's a single direction move. So it's not super complex in its design, but it's very effective in its overall activation of different areas of the body. So for me, I feel like that's something that can be used throughout the course of your life. It's to basically help you to be healthy and overall, in general. As far as cheerleading goes, I think that there's more than just one. And this is for guys and girls. This is not gender separate. This is for all cheer athletes. I think that the Olympic weightlifting movements are paramount for cheer athletic ability. The clean and jerk and the snatch. And for those that are not familiar with those moves, the clean and jerk is picking a barbell or a weight from the floor, catching it up onto your shoulders in the front of your body, and then locking it out overhead in two motions. The snatch is basically the same goal, ground to overhead, but in one motion. Now, these moves, the reason I say for athleticism, these are some of the best is because they incorporate power, speed, specificity, strength. I mean, it's a very complex movement and whole body working. So you can do basically your whole body with these two movements. They're fantastic. The only problem is they're highly complex, which makes them difficult to master. And that for some people can be somewhat dangerous, right? So for cheerleading, and that's guys and girls, because honestly, guys and girls' roles in cheer are very similar. Both have to be strong, both have to be athletic, both have to be flexible, both have to have good conditioning. There's not much difference there other than one's on top in a stunt and one's on the bottom in the stunt, right? So a lot of overlap with responsibilities. So Olympic weightlifting, in my opinion, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's barbell, dumbbell, kettlebells, those movements will prepare a cheer athlete better as just in and of themselves than any other movement. My personal favorite, to answer the question as it was asked, my personal favorite exercise is the clean and jerk. It's always been something I've enjoyed doing. I found it to be something that I caught on to very quickly, and it helped me a lot during my cheer career. And then after I transitioned from cheer into CrossFit and did some competitive CrossFit stuff, and then started coaching a little bit there, the clean and jerk was, again, my favorite movement. I feel like I moved faster with that movement as far as like progressing and getting better and stronger than with anything else. It mimicked cheerleading a lot, so it definitely was something I enjoyed doing. But even to this day, I still enjoy the clean and jerk. I think it's a phenomenal movement. So great questions. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Make sure to check out anchor.fm/cheerleading if you want to become a contributor to the podcast and help our scholarship to grow. We'll catch you on the next episode.